Hey there, and welcome to my business page, South Bay Yoginis. My name is Valinda Kokella. I'm the owner of southbayyoginis.com, and I've been practicing yoga since 1994 and teaching since 2000. And it's my passion to help you create peace daily using tools and techniques I have been studying, teaching, and practicing over half my life. Hey, Angela, and welcome. So I'm assuming you can hear and see me okay because Angela is saying hi to me. So welcome to my training today. So I am, hey Melanie, welcome. We are doing a training today. So many people were asking me about the history, lineage, and styles of yoga. I'm like, well, I am just going to pop on, and this is my manual that I wrote, very proud, 62-page manual. So talk about the gift and the garbage, you guys. I hurt my foot last year. I actually got plantar fasciitis. I hurt my foot in Zumba, and you guys know I work out a lot. I work out with a trainer. I do Zumba. I was doing Nia. I was doing all these dances, and I actually hurt my foot. I woke up and my foot was really swollen. I had to go to the podiatrist and all this stuff. And anyway, I had to stay off my foot for a few weeks. That was very challenging for me. But I wrote a manual while I was with my foot lifted on ice. I wrote a manual. So I have my 62-page manual called Awakening, and this is my 50-hour Kundalini yoga and meditation immersion in Kauai that I do every year now. So April 2 through 8, I have 3 spots left, 2020. If you want to come, let me know. So we are going to hop right into this training. So this is actually the beginning of this book. I do go into, so if you look at the table of contents, I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to share my screen, so it's not like I'm going to hold the book up and you have to read it. So we are going to be going over my Yoga 101 course. So I actually teach this at the gym where I teach. I led 3 Hatha Yoga teacher trainings back in 2009 with Cloud9 Yoga, which is where I got certified in 1999. This was my very first teacher training I did in 1999 with Erica Faith, and that's who I do my Kauai immersions with now. So definitely check her out, cloud9yoga.com. So she does immersions there. And so I wanted to give you guys a little bit of the history. So especially in my yoga journey, so I've shared this into several groups. So I don't know how I will answer your comments, but if I see your comments on my phone, I will answer them. If I don't acknowledge your comment, it means I did not see it. And I will come back and this will be in my yoga journey, Conversations with My Soul Sisters, Kundalini Yoga, Meditation and Wellness. That's my group. And it will also be on my South Bay Yoginis page. And then I will be uploading it to YouTube. So if you have any questions, just put it in the comments and I will come back and I will get back to you if I don't answer it right away. But I do see I have Angela Hope Faith and I have Melanie live with me right now. So I do see your comments. So if you have any questions, let me know. So I am going to jump right in and share my screen. So this is a Yoga 101 training. So what is yoga? Where did it come from? Is it really 40,000 years old? There's a lot of misinformation out there. And what about all these styles of yoga? Like, how crazy is that? So we're going to jump right in. I'm going to share my screen. So bear with me. Sometimes it gets a little funky with the screen sharing, but I'm going to do it. So hopefully you can see my screen. I'm going to minimize that. And we're going to go out of here. And then I'm going to open up my document and you let me know if you can see it. Oh, it's super tiny. But let me see. Let me know you can see my document. And then I'm going to make it big. And there is the document. And then I'm going to move me because I see me there. All right? So it's Yoga 101, and I compiled the information. Obviously, I didn't write about the 4 main paths of yoga. I really compiled the manual too, but I did put it together and I wrote everything you're seeing. So I want to start with the meaning of the word yoga. So yoga literally means to join. It's from the Sanskrit word yuj, to yoke, to unite, to subjugate, with the meaning also to control and to discipline. So it's from the English word yoke, and it's the Sanskrit word yuj. Okay, so the first mention of yoga, not in the way we understand yoga today, you guys. So the way what we think yoga is in the West is we think it's a bunch of poses, right? We think it's all this crazy stuff, going upside down, putting your leg behind your head, everything you see in Yoga Journal, everything you see on Instagram. But really, yoga is not that at all. It actually has 4 main paths. So it's from the Vedas. So we're going to go pretty fast, and make sure you click the link that I posted above this video to grab the handout, which is what I'm showing you right now, and you can just print it out. Okay, so the scripts were passed down orally for thousands of years and then written in ancient India. So it is from India. Yoga is from India, and it is from Hinduism, actually. It's from the Hindu scriptures, the Vedas. Veda literally means knowledge, and it's the oldest scriptures that we know of, the Vedas are. So I talk about these, that there's actually 4 Vedas: the Rig Veda, the Yajur Veda, the Sama Veda, and the Athar Veda. So I don't have perfect pronunciation, just so you know, even though I've been teaching for 20 years, right? So this is all about the history. And really, it has 4 main paths, right? So this is from the school of Hinduism. So when people say yoga is religion, it kind of is. I mean, it's from Hinduism. It's literally from the Hindus. It's from the oldest scriptures called the Vedas, which mean knowledge. So there's 4 paths of yoga, or 4 ways of yoga. There's Raja Yoga, which is the Kundalini Yoga, the yoga of the self. So it's based on the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, which is kind of the first thing we see postures in. And this was, and I'll get into the years and stuff around that, but it's about 5,000 years old. There's Bhakti Yoga, which is the yoga of devotion, which is really what Kundalini is. Kundalini is a very devotional practice. There's a lot of chanting. There's a lot of breath work. There's a lot of singing. It's very ritualistic, very tantric. Jnana Yoga is the yoga of wisdom and knowledge, which is what we're doing right now. We're studying the history of yoga. So that would be Jnana Yoga. And then Karma Yoga is action yoga. So we actually have Karma Yoga at my retreats, where you come and we're part of a community. And to be Karma Yoga, we want to take care of the environment. We want to give back in our communities. Okay, so Raja Yoga is really what we're talking about today. That is really the postures, what you see. It's the physical practice of yoga, and that's also where the 8 limbs come from. So there's 4 paths of yoga: Raja, Bhakti, Jnana, and Karma. Raja is the practice. It's Patanjali's Yoga Sutras come from that school of yoga, or that path. Okay? So that's really what we're talking about. So back to the Vedas, where it all began. The chief belief of the Vedas, of the ancient texts, is the belief that the existence of the Atman, or the soul, is in your body. So that our soul never dies. So that is really the basis of yoga belief, is that you are a soul having a human experience. Okay? Not everybody believes this. And I'm not saying you have to believe this. I'm just giving you the history, right? So we're going to flash forward 2,000 years to a sage named Patanjali. So this was 1,700 years ago, around the time that Buddhism was born, 500 BC. Okay? Tantra was also emerging, and Jainism was also emerging, the Jainism. So this was also emerging as well. And the sadhus, which are the holy men in India, were kind of wandering around, putting the ashes of the dead all over them. They were emerging too. So they're kind of the sadhus are the holy men in India that renounce the world, right? They were renunciates. They said, all life is suffering, and I'm going to give up all my worldly possessions, and I'm just going to walk around and do these yoga poses all day long. And that's actually where some historians believe a lot of yoga poses actually come from the sadhus that are meditating, they're smoking ganja, they're, putting the ashes of the dead all over themselves. So you can actually see pictures if you Google sadhu, and it's SADHU, so the holy men of India. So the first written account of yoga, as we might understand it today, was around the 4th century by the sage Patanjali. So he actually wrote 196 threads, or sutras. Sutra literally means to stitch. So think of a suture. And he talked about merging with God and your soul. So the finite human form merging with God, that's what yoga is about. It's your finite consciousness and your infinite consciousness. So that kind of goes, if you're atheist and you're practicing yoga, you might be like, Yeah, forget that. That's not why I practice yoga. And you don't have to believe anything to practice yoga. That's what's kind of cool about it too. You don't have to believe anything. I'm just giving you the history. So the only posture actually discussed in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, which is really the only thing we have from where yoga came from, the Vedas. So this is a huge ancient book of knowledge. And then the sutras, which are within the Vedas, right? It's in the Raja Yoga, the 4 paths of yoga written in the Vedas. And Patanjali wrote these 195 ways to find God, basically. And the only posture he talks about, you guys, is this one, is Sukhasana, is easy pose. So he really wrote about the 8 steps of stages, 8 limbs of yoga. He was also influenced by the Buddha. So he talked about the yamas and the niyamas, which is a moral way of being in the world, right? Non-violence, don't harm anybody, speak the truth, don't steal from others, have restraint in your cleanliness in the way that you are, so brahmacharya. And also don't cling to your possessions, aparigraha, right? So those are the yamas. And then the niyamas are rules of personal behavior, right? So we're not just talking about, yoga is not just about the postures, according to Patanjali. It's about these 8 limbs. So purity, contentment, discipline, austerity, spiritual studies, right? And then constant devotion to God. Patanjali talked a lot about God, right? And it's interesting because my teacher, Yogi Bhajan, calls God something very different. All right, so the yamas and the niyamas are the first 2 limbs of yoga. The 3rd limb of yoga is asana. So that's referring to yoga postures. But Patanjali only talked about really mastering the body to be still for meditation. He talked about breath work. He talked about, really sitting very still. So if you read Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, if you start to read the sutras, and there are many, many translations of the sutras, and you should get that in your first teacher training. If you're doing a 200 level teacher training, a lot of them talk about the Yoga Sutras. Some don't. Pranayama is another of Patanjali's the 8 limbs of yoga. So that's really breathing techniques to control your life force energy. He talked about pratyahara, so withdrawal of the senses. So really, Kundalini, we use a lot of pratyahara in Kundalini, which is a lot of eye closing and going inward. Dharana is concentrating. So concentrating on one thing, so you can meditate on a candle burning, or having one pointed focusness. And in Kundalini, we focus the drishti a certain way. So the gaze of the eyes, we focus here, or we focus at the chin, or we focus at the tip of the nose. We do a lot of different drishtis. Dhyana is the practice of meditation. So that's really what Patanjali was talking about. He was talking about, getting the tension out of the body to be able to sit and meditate, and then you can merge with the divine. But the ultimate goal of yoga is merging your finite consciousness with your infinite consciousness. So realizing that you're a soul, right? That you're a soul, that your soul never dies, and you're having this human experience. Okay? So even then, yoga refers to ways of being, mudras, bandhas, pranayama. So where did all these postures come from, right? So that's what we're like, where did all these postures come from? Well, now we're in the 8th century Buddhist texts. They talk about some asana as well. Somewhere in the 14th century, there was also a sage who talked about, who wrote the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, so which is 15 floor postures. So you can actually Google Hatha Yoga Pradipika and see the 15 postures. They're just seated postures, kind of twists, very simple postures. So nothing like we do today. The first kind of single most archaeological discovery, a man seemingly sitting in a yoga pose, was the Pashupati seal, I'm not saying that right, in 2300 BC. Okay, so Julian Walker, who actually was just on my live stream on Instagram, which I thought that was so cute. He was one of my first teachers. He broke it down this way. So I really like the way he breaks it down, because he is talk about a scholar. He's really a scholar. I'm not a scholar. So this is how he breaks it down. The Pashupati seal was 4,300 years ago. The Vedas were 3,700 years ago. The Bhagavad Gita, which is an epic Hindu tale from the Mahabharata, mentioning yoga and the Hindu synthesis 2,300 years ago. Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, 1,700 years ago. So the earliest textual reference to Hatha Yoga happened to be in the Buddhist text 1,300 years ago, and the first elaborated Hatha text 800 years ago. The first text now recognizable as Yoga Asana would be the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, which was 600 years ago. So where do all these postures come from? When people talk about yoga being, in my teachers have said it's 40,000 years old, that it dates back to 40,000 years. Where did that come from? I want to know. Modern yoga, 20th century India. So this is the father of modern yoga, you guys. The way we understand yoga today, this is the guy. And it was Tirumalai Krishnamacharya, born 1888 to 1989, Mysore, India. So Krishnamacharya is the guy. So he was a Brahmin, and he started teaching actually young boys going into the military yoga postures. Now, some people believe that it actually, if you read Mark Singleton's book, which I have in the references, he talks about Krishnamacharya. When the British came over, they brought British calisthenics over, and someone got a hold of that book, and with ancient teachings that have been passed down verbally for maybe a couple of thousand years, that's really when modern yoga began. With this man right here, Krishnamacharya. And then his students include BKS Iyengar, who I met Iyengar in India, and Pattabhi Jois. They're actually cousins. So these are the two main schools of yoga, you guys. Yoga as we know it in the West. So I see people say, well, I practice Hatha Yoga. I don't practice Bikram. So all the yoga, you guys, that we see in the West is Hatha Yoga, except Kundalini. Kundalini is different. It's all Hatha Yoga. So Hatha Yoga is the umbrella. Ha means sun, Tha means moon. Hatha Yoga is balancing left and right sides of the brain and the body, and it comes from Krishnamacharya. That's it. All of our lineage comes from this one man. And Iyengar, BKS Iyengar, this man decided to really go into the depth of perfecting posture, props, and really healed himself. I mean, he was really an amazing man. I mean, it breaks my heart, all the abuse stories coming out right now from these men. It just breaks my heart. But BKS Iyengar Yoga, he's the father of modern yoga. So Iyengar and Pattabhi Jois started Ashtanga Yoga. So I've studied both of these yogas. They're very different. Iyengar, his triangle was very different from an Ashtanga triangle. Iyengar Yoga is perfecting the posture. You stay in the posture for 25 breaths. So you're in triangle, 25 breaths. You might do 5 poses in an hour and a half Iyengar class. If you go to a real trained Iyengar teacher, their teacher trainings are 3 years. They're excellent teachers. They're amazing teachers. I had an amazing Iyengar teacher. Okay? So that's Iyengar Yoga. And the Pattabhi Jois started Ashtanga Yoga, which were the same postures, very similar to what Bikram did, these same postures that you do over and over again. You have the primary series, the secondary series, and I think there was another one. So Mahdi Ezraty and Chuck Miller, who really started yoga here in the 80s, this is who they studied with. They also studied with Iyengar. Well, I know Mahdi, who's passed, studied with Iyengar as well. But these are the two main schools of yoga, you guys. You have Iyengar and you have Ashtanga. All the power yoga comes from Ashtanga. All the Iyengar yoga is the more static yoga, the more simple postures, right? And then there's TKV Desikachar, which is called Vinyasa. And this is very therapeutic yoga. So this is kind of more of what I teach now, is Desikachar, who I also met in India. So any questions so far? I'm looking. I'm going to take a breath. Okay, but this is Hatha Yoga. All of it's Hatha Yoga. Iyengar, Ashtanga, Desikachar. These are the three main schools of yoga. And then in the 70s, so the 60s and the 70s, people from Los Angeles, really, Los Angeles is the mecca of yoga where I live, went to India to study with these teachers, and they brought back the teachings and then started their own teachings, right? So this is where all the teachers in LA come from, this lineage: Krishnamacharya, Iyengar, Ashtanga, or Desikachar, Vinaya Yoga. Since the 70s, the 60s, and the 70s, it has been an explosion of yoga, right? So, a little bit of the spiritual side again. Yoga to the West, the first real kind of Swami that brought it here, the spiritual side of yoga, was in the 1800s. He came to Chicago in 1893. You can actually still Google his talk, and spoke at the Parliament of World Religions. And he spoke about Vedanta philosophy and yoga. Vedanta is a spiritual philosophy that affirms the oneness of existence, the divinity of the soul, and the harmony of all religions, right? So that's Swami Vivekananda. And then Paramahansa Yogananda. I studied Yogananda lineage for many years as well. So Yogananda actually came here in the 1920s. So he started Self-Realization Foundation in Pacific Palisades near Malibu, right here in Los Angeles. And I've been there many times, and I studied this lineage for a while, which is also Kriya Yoga. Kriya means action. And his lineage is Babaji. It's a whole nother Swami, I can't remember, Yukteswar. So it's a whole lineage. Jesus Christ is in this lineage. So if you look, because they actually say Jesus was a yogi, which is interesting. So if you read Autobiography of a Yogi, you're going to get kind of a lot of this history as well. So Yogananda, so these were the first two yogis to come to the West, you guys, Vivekananda and Paramahansa Yogananda. So Yogananda came here in 20s, and he was an Indian yogi and guru. He was actually a guru who introduced millions of Westerners to the teachings of meditation and Kriya Yoga through the book Autobiography of a Yogi. He started the Self-Realization Foundation in Pacific Palisades. And then one of his students branched off and started the Expanding Light Center and Ananda Yoga. So that was Swami, I'm spacing on his name, but I have his book right there. But if somebody knows that his name, let me know. So I actually studied with him as well. So, and then we have Shivananda. So this is still Hatha Yoga, you guys. This is all the postures that came from Krishnamacharya, and the British calisthenics is really where the modern postures that we get today. And then, like, you know, all the crazy flip the dog and all that stuff, those are made up in the past 50 years, most of those postures. So Swami Kriyananda is who studied with Yogananda. Okay, and then Swami Shivananda. So people see the people in the orange robes, and really a lot of people back east do Shivananda. You can go to the Shivananda farm back east, and you wear all orange, and it's a very, very Hatha yoga practice, Krishnamacharya lineage. But Shivananda actually created his own, because he kind of merged a lot of religion with the yoga. So he created Divine Life Society and became very popular in the West. He wrote 296 books on yoga, philosophy, and psychology, and ethics and health. He has many disciples and centers around the world. So a lot of these are gurus, right? And I conveniently left out, when I first wrote this, Bikram, but I did add him in my manual because he's had so many sexual assault cases against him. But here's Bikram. So you guys all know Bikram, right? So he became super, super popular by creating a series of 26 Hatha yoga postures done in a 104-degree room. So he made claims that the postures of his yoga practice were under copyright and they could not be taught, but that was actually overruled by the federal court. So the federal court said, no, you can't copyright yoga. It's an ancient tradition from thousands of years ago. How can you copyright it? So, so he actually had a lawsuit against all the people using his stuff, which this is going on in my lineage now too. A lot of lawsuits against Kundalini yogis, which is really sad, again. So he actually left the country. Bikram left and is now, I think, in Mexico and created his own things in Mexico. So I hear people commenting. Let me see if I can see any comments. Oh, Melanie said something. Okay. All right. Then we get to my teacher. So I'm sorry I left Bikram out, you guys, but that I spaced. Here is my teacher. So this is the lineage that I teach. I teach Kundalini yoga and meditation. And it was brought here in 1969 to create teachers, not followers. So Yogi Bhajan, our teacher, he said, I'm not a guru, I'm a teacher. He became master of Kundalini at the age of 16. He studied with Sant Hazara Singh, and he was declared master at 16. I think, this is totally my opinion, I've been studying yoga half my life, he made up all the kriyas that we teach now. So all the kriyas are actually copyrighted by Yogi Bhajan. He taught these kriyas, this set of exercises that produce a desired result. And as teachers, that's how we teach the kriyas. We teach them exactly how Yogi Bhajan taught us. And they are very, very powerful. So he also said, the guru is in you. He introduced the practice of Kundalini and meditation, this powerful technology, very different from Hatha yoga. So we don't do triangles and warriors, and we do down dog and Kundalini, but we call it triangle. He created the Happy, Healthy, Holy organization, and he said the practice was given to him from Sikh gurus and his teacher Sant Hazara Singh, and became master of Kundalini. He wrote hundreds of books on psychology of being human, met leaders, presidents, pope, and left a legacy of thousands of teachers and practitioners all over the world. So he's actually my lineage, is Yogi Bhajan. So Kundalini yoga is a tantric practice. Tantra is not sex yoga. Tantra means to weave. Red tantric, I'm sure, is sex yoga. I don't know anything about that. I teach Kundalini yoga as taught by Yogi Bhajan. This is what I've been studying for 20 years. I do not follow the rules. I do not wear a turban. I do not wear all white. I don't do all the religious dogma. I'm not into the religious aspects of yoga, really, even though really if I dig deep into my being, I do believe that we are souls having a human experience. And I do believe that we sign up for things before we come, that life is a school where you learn how to remember what your soul already knows. So the ultimate goal of yoga is to realize your soul and to live from your soul, really. Hey, Natasha, welcome. So that's my Yoga 101. So all the other styles, you guys, core power yoga, John Friend's yoga, Anusara yoga, the guy back east, the power yoga guy, what's his name? Baron Baptiste yoga, that all comes from Krishnamacharya. Krishnamacharya is the main guy. It's either Iyengar based or it's Ashtanga based, or Desikachar. Desikachar is therapeutic yoga. So I hope that simplifies it for you. All the styles that you practice are just made up by people who have studied yoga for a while. So the core power guy, I heard, I haven't done research on this, so definitely let me know if you do core power, that he studied Ashtanga and he also studied Bikram. So he kind of merged the power yoga with the hot yoga and created core power. Anusara yoga, John Friend, he studied Ashtanga and I think Iyengar, then he created his own kind of heart opening yoga. But all yoga that we do in the West, 90% of yoga that we do is Hatha yoga. Ha means sun, Tha means moon. Hatha yoga is the yoga of balancing the left and right sides of the brain and the body. And it is the physical practice of yoga, which probably came from the British in the 1800s. And originally Ashtanga yoga, or the power yoga, all those vinyasas, was created for young boys going into the military in the early 1900s. So 16-year-old boys going into the military were doing this vigorous vinyasa flow practice. So as a 53-year-old woman, that does not work for me. So I actually don't do vinyasa anymore because I have so many injuries from it. But vinyasa yoga is basically Ashtanga. It's just power yoga. People have stripped down yoga. So I did put the handout in my description. So we're going to go back out of here and I'm going to go back into my camera and see if you guys have any questions. So, ooh, I did that good. I did it in less than 30 minutes. So if you want the handout, definitely grab it and you can print it out. If you want a copy of my 62-page manual, definitely let me know. I wrote it. I compiled it. Of course, I didn't write the Vedas. I put it together, and I'm creating my second edition right now for my Kauai Kundalini Yoga and Meditation Immersion, April 2 through 8, 2020. I have 3 spots left if you're interested in doing that with me. And then we're doing Kundalini Yoga 101, which starts tomorrow. Doors close tomorrow at 12. So if you want in there, southbayyoginis.zippycourses.com. Melanie is in there. Stephanie is in there. Natasha is in there. Bernie is in there. And Angela is in there. Definitely would like a copy of the manual. Yes, Melanie, I am working on the second edition because guess what I forgot to do? Because I need an editor, you guys. I forgot to put page numbers. Duh! I forgot to put page numbers. So I have this, I have the front, I have our beautiful table of contents with no page numbers. You see it? It's kind of hard to see I got a skylight right above me. I will get you one, my people, my beautiful women. All right, you guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me and doing this training with me. Any questions at all, reach out to me. We start Kundalini Yoga 101 this week, so if you're interested in the lineage that I teach, Kundalini Yoga and meditation, definitely get in my course. It is going to be an online teacher training. I'm in the process of creating that as well. And I'm writing a book. So, and I'm being a mom to a 15-year-old. I'm a dance mom as well. So I got a lot going on. But thank you so much for hanging out. I hope you learned something about the lineage of yoga. But the modern day yoga postures that we do, probably just a few hundred years old, from the early 1900s. But yeah, I know. So cool, huh, Melanie? Good to know. Good to know. And it's so funny. I remember when the gym asked me to do this course, they said, Valinda, can you just do a little Yoga 101? Because people are asking about the lineages and the styles and the history. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I can throw that together. You guys, this took me, I think, 20-some hours to put together this training. I researched, I Googled, I studied, I read. Because, I didn't want to, there's so much wrong information out there. I mean, literally, in my Kundalini books, it says that it's 40,000 years old. And there is no research on that. There's none. There's no research. I don't know where they pulled that number, 40,000 years old. It doesn't exist. I really think Yogi Bhajan made up all the Kriyas, and his students wrote them down, and that's how we teach them. And they're copyrighted. So now I can't do a teacher training. I've been studying for 25 years, and I'm not allowed to do a teacher training. Isn't that interesting? So we learn all this knowledge, and then we're not allowed to certify other people unless we go through the rules and the regulations But that's a whole nother story I'm not going to go into right now, because I'm doing the opposite now. I am into the Aquarian age. I'm into the goddess and the feminine, and we are breaking out of all this dogma. But yes, this practice has given me a lot. I've been studying yoga and meditation over half my life. It's healed me on so many levels and so many ways. So if you are, they pulled it out of thin air. 40,000 years old. There's no research on that. No research. I'm a Virgo. I want to know, right? So any questions at all, reach out to me. If you want to get in my Kundalini Yoga 101 course, you got to get in today. Doors close tomorrow at 12 o'clock. And I do a hard close, and then we start the course together. And yeah, so get in there. It's southbayyoginis.zippycourses.com, and that is my Kundalini Yoga 101 course. And it's a 4-week course. Once you buy it, you own it. I will send you all the videos, and you can do the practice with me. It's super powerful. If you've never tried Kundalini, I highly recommend it. Ask my ladies that are here right now. They're queen of it. And we're on day 33 of a 40-day meditation right now for guidance. Totally free on my Vimeo channel, Valinda Yoga. But any questions at all, let me know. I am going to wrap it up. I've been live for like an hour and a half now, so I'm going to wrap it up. And yeah, thanks so much for hanging out with me. Bring your hands together. Inhale, Sat. Exhale, Nam. Truth is my name. Truth is your name. Still your mind. Open your heart. Speak your truth and live your dreams. I hope you enjoyed this training. Mwah. Bye, guys.